Hey, good evening, Buck fans. Welcome to Bucks Report, the aftermath 102.9, the game Broad Street South Radio. We're going to be discussing, of course, the Bengals game. We also have a lot of other topics when it comes to the Bucks, again, with their respect and the expectations on the media and for the Buck fans. So stay tuned tonight. Get yourself ready. We're going to get ready and get that Buck talk going. Let's go. That's right. That's going to be the Bucks right here. That connection is going to be special. And again, thank you again, Buck fans, for tuning in on Bucks Report, the aftermath on 102.9, the game Broad Street South Radio. It's one of your hosts, AJ Turner in the house. We got Coach Slick at the side, and we got the homie Louie from the Frozen Pirate at the bottom. Thank you all for joining. I hope you're doing good. The Bucks are going to be good, guys. We are here. The season is upon us. It's preseason right now. Remember, this is basically the rough draft part of the season. So this is about who is going to be on the team, who's fighting for a spot, and who is going to be good for depth. So right now, I hope you guys are doing good. But before we even go into Buccaneers football talk, we have to talk about another established good coach, and Coach Slick right here. If you don't believe me, the numbers and resume and actions speak for itself. Let's give a shout out to the Sandwell Steelers, 57-0. That's what we call ass whooping. That's a good old we call in the States a good AW, a good old fashioned ass whooping. Yep, the Steelers, look, that logo goes well with what they did. They hammered them. They gave them the hammer. Yeah, nailed them all day and all night. Woo! Damn.
More to come, guys. Yeah, burgers and donuts. That's what's on the. That was what was on the menu. We couldn't get a shutout all year, and then we go and do it in the fucking playoffs. So, really proud of the boys for shutting that thing down, and pretty much everyone got to play as well. So it's not like we were just keeping the starters in the whole time. Towards the fourth quarter, everyone was in. It was a free for all. So credit to them. They couldn't handle the heat. They couldn't handle us. It's amazing how this team, and I'm not disrespecting them in any shape or form, but it's amazing how this team got 7 wins and 1 loss, which is the exact same statistics that we were at. To go and get beat like that. Their division was a weak ass. It must have been a weak ass division because the other team had to play the runner ups from our division, and they got. So it was like the divisional champions versus the runner up.
And what quarter was the game over by? What quarter?
Quarter one.
Quarter one. No fucks given. He's like,
it was 21-0. Before the first quarter finished.
Unless Tom Brady was trotting on that field, were you nervous at all?
I was a bit nervous to be after the second drive because the first drive resulted in us giving up a pick. So I was a bit like, oh shit, here we go. This team's going to get a little bit of momentum now. But then that shit got fucking nailed down. Pick 6 to start us off. Our first score was a defensive one. So
nice, man. Cheers to you, brother. You deserved it. Cheers.
Yeah. I say this anytime you can start
off. The next game will be streamed, guys. The next game will be streamed, professionally done by the media in the UK as well. So
put that in the chat so we can all take a look. I need to see this. And typically, in my opinion, when you start the game off and the defense scores, that's a bad omen for the opposing team. Because at that point, that just means it's going to go either way. It's going to go bad, or you're going to have to find a way to fight out of it. Oh, and Louis, shout out to that hat. That hat is tough. I'm going to get that hat. I need that hat. I need that hat.
That's the old original 1975. I mean, 1970. I believe. No, I'm sorry. 1976. I actually got this at the outlets in Tampa when we were down there for vacation. So
that's cool. I seen it. University Mall in Tampa. Shout out to University Mall,
man. Shout out. I got a lot of good hats from down there, man. Because when I go down there, I stock up, man. Like I got to bring another suitcase with me when I go out there because I just stock up on stuff.
I feel you, man. Look, but I'm gonna tell you what, you can always, it's like this. There's so many little pocket places in Tampa where you can get the good shit too. They got I call it like the Tampa swap meet. Man, you get all kind of good shit down there. Look, that's why I love Tampa when it comes to just everything down there. You know what I'm saying? Like, I just love it. Again, shout out to the University Mall, shout out to International Plaza in Bay, shout out to Hyde Park Village, all that good shit. All of it. Love y'all. Shout out to the Bucs. Shout out to Tampa.
Let's get into it, guys, because we got a loaded show here today.
Yeah. First off, let's just start off with this right here. The Buccaneers beat the Bengals 17-14. Now, of course, this is still a meaningless game, but we still know how to analyze and assess and take things away. I want to start with Louis at the bottom. What did you take away from this game? Two things, one on offense and one on defense. What did you like? And then you can also give us what is it that you see that needs improvement.
To start off, the running game looks solid, but it wasn't just the running game and Bucky and them guys. The wide receiving core, Trey Palmer made some good catches. I mean, I think it was 2 for 21 or whatever the case may be. Jalen McMillan showed up. These guys look confident. I'm very confident now seeing the offense. Like Liam Cohen, I'm excited for Liam Cohen. As far as the defense goes, I'm still undecisive about that pass rush. Although we do look pretty solid at depth at the corner position. So I like the way our safeties and corners played. I'm not sold 100% on the pass rush just yet. A couple of guys out there I hear are on the market. Just saying, Todd. Well, one guy came off the board. We'll get to that later. But there's another guy out there. Just Todd, if you're watching this, Coach Bowles, think we need to make a move. Just saying. Just saying.
I feel you on that. I can dig it. The run game was good. How about you, Slick?
I got to echo what our boy just said. Pass rush just doesn't seem to get home, but that run defense, that was good. That was some good stuff. And the coverage was pretty solid in points. Not great, but you're not expecting it to be fantastic. You know, you're probably playing quite a vanilla coverage. I mean, the only thing I can defend Todd Bowles in his pass rush is he's a very creative blitzer, and you're probably not going to use your creative blitzes in a preseason game. So it was probably pretty simple, straight up all rush blitzes. Nothing too exotic, nothing too crazy, just so that you don't give too much away. But I do think we do need something a little bit more there, because Chris Braswell didn't really. I was hoping he would pop off a little bit more. Being against other seconds, you're kind of hoping a guy like that makes a step up, like a Bucky Irvin did. Really stepped up in his game. The McMillan stepped up his game. Trey Palmer stepped up his game. Payne Durham even looked. Payne Durham is listed as the second choice tight end now rather than the third, which means he beats Keith out. He had a bit some good plays too. So for me, I liked how attritional we were. I'd like to have got more scores. John Wolford's pretty decent against nobodies. I give him that. Like, it was solid. Like, you couldn't. There was not much I could fault except for the lack of a pass rush.
Echoing you guys. Bucky and Tucker both established something that was different that Rachaad White doesn't do, but that's okay. That's why Bucky was drafted. If you saw Bucky's runs as a running back, I thought it was sensational how he knew how to hit the holes. He had the vision. He had patience, but he also knew when to attack. Tucker was very explosive. As a matter of fact, he was really more explosive than Bucky was. But I love that. I love that
he got 10 carries. Both got 10 carries. One walked away with 68 yards. The other one got 29. But Bucky got himself 28 for 6. So
And I love the battle competition between McMillan and Palmer. I think that's going to be a very exciting thing between those two, because Palmer can show you he can stretch the field with his speed. That's no question. But McMillan was making contested catches. His route running was crisp. Trask, I was hopeful, but I was a little disappointed. My scary thing that I have for Trask is after his first read, if it's not there, he cannot adapt fast enough. And that's what was upsetting me. Like you said, Wolford was out there being a warrior. But Liam
13 for
Cohen,
12 for 18.
yes. And that drive down the field during the fourth quarter was excellent. Now, like you guys said, Broswell, I'm a little concerned about Broswell, but I'm not. I have to lower my expectations. I think Broswell is going to be a work in progress. I think Broswell will come into his own mid-season because Bowles said it before that Broswell at first was a little slow trying to adapt to the scheme, but each time he is improving. So I think in Broswell's case, this was just a welcome to the NFL moment for him. He's going to learn, but right now, for Broswell, to be quite frank, he's not what Yaya is at the moment. Yaya is going to be more established, and Broswell, we have to give him a chance. But you guys are right, Louis and Slick. That pass rush is going to have to get there. Now, we also didn't see Vita and Cansey in the trenches, so I do think it's going to be a big difference.
I think that plays a big factor too with a guy like Broswell. Like, I don't think let's touch on that because we've seen something happen earlier today with the Patriots and the Falcons, and we'll get to that. But how much better do you like? This is a question for both of you guys. How much better do you think a guy like Broswell would look if if he started week 1 with a guy like Vita Vea eating up 2 guys with a Yaya Diaby on the opposite side? You know what I'm saying? With why were guys like Greg Spires and Cedric Darby's and those guys, why were they so good on the same line with Simeon Rice and Warren Sapp? You know what I'm saying? Because those 2 guys ate up blockers. I'm not saying they were great, but those guys would show up in the stat sheet. As well, for me, I think I agree with both you guys. He needs to definitely work a little bit more. The game has to slow down for him. He's got to feel like he's playing like he's trying to do too much, and he's losing it. You know what I'm saying? I think the kid needs to put on a little bit more extra weight. I think he's like when I seen him line up against like certain like tackles like Tristan Wirfs, I was like, wow, man, this guy's small. You know what I'm saying? Like, how's he gonna beat like Tristan Wirfs and all these other tackles out there, man? Like, I don't know. I mean, he could surprise us. He could put up 9 sacks for all we know. He could be one of those guys that kind of just comes out of nowhere halfway through the season.
You're right.
You're
right. That's why I think we have to give for all Buck fans and football fans in general, the preseason is not about judging your starters. Preseason is about observing who's going to be fighting for that spot, who's going to be good depth piece. Because the Burrow thing, the hype was astonishing and funny when first of all, the commentators and Bengals were just completely just yanking Burrow's chain all night. Oh my God, he's back. He's this and that. I said, okay.
Against the second team, it was almost laughable. Like, don't get me wrong, I get that. You watch the Buccaneers broadcast when they do a game in Tampa, it's going to be very similar. But it was quite funny because prior to that drive where they scored, the only reason they got in was because of a pass interference call, which I personally felt was ticky-tacky. I thought it was a 50. Personally, I thought it was a 50-50 call. And if that call didn't happen, they're kicking a field goal.
And he should have got it.
And they're not sucking as much dick.
Yes. It's just, I like Burrow, but I tell people, with their line is still very suspect. Do you really think a guy like Bowles would have just let them march down without more blitzing schemes? That line is not. Oh, first of all, shout out to Golston, because the way that he manhandled Kappa in one of those plays, now he just threw him to the ground and Kappa was on his ass. I was sitting there like, okay, guys, do you honestly think Joe Burrow would have been able to handle Vita Vea, Cansey? Do you think that line would have been able to handle all that? This is why I tell people, slow your roll on preseason. Yes, we are happy that the game is back, but Burrow has to stay. First of all, that was a big ass
it's week
risk
1, man. It's week 1.
Slick said it before. It's a big risk putting a guy out there against a bunch of people who are fighting for a starting position, because that's why that intentional ground that Slick and I thought that I agree with, he was scared. He didn't want to get hit. He threw that shit like this. I said, where's the call? Where's the call?
Mm-hmm.
But overall, I enjoy now because I don't want to get ahead of myself. But guys, Barton is a much step ahead than Hainsey ever was when it came to the run. On the touchdown that Bucky had, Barton was literally carrying the dude five. He was blindsiding that guy into the end zone. That is what we want to see. Barton, I have a feeling we might have hit the home run on that, guys. But before I even go further, we have a guest in the wings waiting. He is a former writer, but he's also a big Bucs fan, but also a fan of football. We're gonna bring on our other guest in the house, Ken Barrett. What's up, Ken Barrett? How you doing?
How y'all doing today?
We're doing well, man. We're just talking about this Bengals game, talking about how the Bengals commentators was like acting like Burrow was just super back because he went against a bunch of people that might literally be working for UPS. Nothing wrong with that, but hey, that's cool.
And that's
cool. Give me your analysis on the game and what you thought was well and what you think can be worked on.
Yeah, so I would definitely say our twos against the Bengals ones were, I think, a pretty big standout there. I think I heard Coach Slick talk about the pass interference call. I do think that ball was uncatchable to start. But I really think from a run game perspective, I think the D-line did a great job against the Bengals O-line. And I think that without that penalty and then a tackle of T. Higgins with a starting caliber corner, not a special team specialist, then Josh Hayes, I think, at least makes that second or third and goal, and we can go from there. But from the overall game standpoint, the only thing I'm going to really take is I'm a little bit concerned from a pass rush perspective, especially at the outside linebackers. We kind of know what JTS is at this point. Yaya, the big narrative around him is, the pressures versus sacks. The percentages just don't lead to, high levels of opportunities. I don't think he quote unquote lucked into sacks the way that, let's say, PFF or some analytics gurus would really go into. But it sounds like Yaya is ready for that next step. But is that next step 10 sacks? We'll see. JTS, anything over 5, I think we would all consider a pretty big win from JTS's perspective. But who's behind them? Anthony Nelson, Chris Braswell. I just don't see it from a pass rush perspective. And we can definitely get into, the Jaguars, practice today. Sounds like they did a pretty good job, but I think that the tackles are the weakest point of the Jaguars. So just moving forward, I think we checked off everything across the board and everything except from a pass rushing perspective. I believe we had 1 QB hit and 0 sacks.
Amen to that. And I want to go with JT Olsen said, because this does seem like this is a good point. Shout out to JT Olsen on this. He says, let's not be too harsh on Braswell yet. Keep in mind that he was going against a first-round pick at OT for the Bengals. That's a reasonable, like I would say, if he's going up against someone at that level, yes, we are. I think we want to see that pass rush that we had prior years with JPP and Shaq Barrett. I think you're right, Ken and Slick, Louis. We all can agree. We want to see that again. We are waiting for that because in hindsight, if we can have a consistent pass rush, bowl scheme, the Bucs are a top 5 defense. They're dangerous.
Well, going back to what Coach said, Bowles, he dials up some funky blitzes sometimes. Like I don't know if you guys remember this. This was on a primetime game. He had like Vita Vea and Levante David lined up in like the same zone. Like it was wild, and they both just charged the quarterback, and it worked. The problem, I keep saying this, the Bucs need to go get a pass rusher because guys like JTS, who's all gas, no brakes, Chris Braswell, who's a rookie, who's not ready. I do like our depth with Anthony Nelson, but guys like that, they come in, they're good for a couple of plays on the drive. They're not every down guys. Going back to what I was talking about with this trade, the Atlanta Falcons, what they just did with Matthew Judon. Man, living in Massachusetts, I do watch these Patriots game, and Judon was a factor for them guys. And the Patriots never had like a bad defense. I don't know what the specifics of the trade were, but this is a guy who would have fit perfect in Todd Bowles' scheme, in my opinion. And he would have, I mean, put the Buccaneers in that Super Bowl category contention almost. You know what I'm saying? Because all these teams that are playing for Super Bowls right now, what do they all have in common? They have an elite pass rusher. I don't see an elite pass rusher on this defense. I see a lot of good. I see a lot of good and great players. I don't see an elite pass rusher. And that's huge, man. The Rams, Aaron Donald, the list goes on. Like I'm not, again, I've said this on past shows. I feel confident in the offense, but the defense is going to take some time, man. Yaya Diaby is not, I don't know. I hope, you know what, guys? I hope I eat my words. Yaya Diaby is not like a 12, 13, 14 sack guy just yet. He's got to stay healthy. I hope the Bucs do pull a trigger here on a trade soon. There's a guy in New York who's not too happy with his deal. The Bucs got some cap room. Just saying.
Can I provide a counterpoint to that?
Absolutely.
So Matthew Judon, very good player. Louis correct there. But you trade Matthew Judon for 1 year, basically. He's 32 years old here. He's basically in a Hassan Reddick situation where he's been holding in. He's just at least showed up to camp, so he doesn't get fined. But he hasn't been practicing, has not played, and had no intentions necessarily of playing with this 1 year left on his deal. So where he doesn't fit into the Bucs is, do you want to pay a 2 to 3 year extension for a 32-year-old pass rusher? Gun to my head, I would say no. And then from that regard, does he help you this year? Absolutely. And what he provides to the Falcons is a room and we're talking about Yaya Diaby not being a 12, 13, 14 sack guy. Sure. But if you look at the Falcons depth chart, I would be hard pressed to find an edge that could get 5 sacks this year. So from Matthew Judon's perspective for the Falcons, it makes absolute sense, because what did they do? They paid $100 million quarterback. They, changed the GM. They changed the head coach. They changed all of their coordinators. They changed their schemes. They're going to be a completely new team this year. So getting that position solidified next to their strength of their defense, and everyone wants to talk about one safety, Jesse Bates is an amazing player, but their strength of their defense is Grady Jarrett and I forgot the Saints D tackle, former Saints D tackle, Onyemata, is the strength of their defense. So when you get Matthew Judon for the Falcons, I think that's a move that could propel them to be a 10-plus win team just because of their schedule. Because remember, we have a first-place schedule. We're playing the Ravens. We're playing the Chiefs. We're playing all of those types of teams. Our schedule is pretty tough. They don't have those opponents. So Matthew Judon is going to make a more of an impact, I think, on the Falcons than he would for the Bucs. Because even if Todd Bowles has 4 extremely good pass rushers like we did in the Super Bowl, he's still going to blitz. I mean, you take the Chiefs game, everyone wants to talk about that. I mean, yes, the Chiefs were down to their backup offensive lineman. So, we got to eat with 4. Absolutely. But if you watch the Saints game, still blitzing against Drew Brees, who, eats the blitz. You're blitzing against Aaron Rodgers. It's Todd Bowles' DNA. The season was on the line against the Rams. And SMB misses that tackle on Cup. Next thing you know, beats Antoine over the top to win the game on a blitz. Because that's just what Todd Bowles is going to do. And I think you just go into this year with the young guys, figure out what's what. I think you're going to be drafting an edge in the first round next year, whether you're at 32 or at 19. I think that's going to be the case. The Bucs are going to be a playoff team, in my opinion. I think you're looking at 9 to 10 wins, and I don't think that's a bad thing.
I agree with you to a certain degree, because it was kind of like, I feel like them trading for a guy like Matthew Judon would be the equivalent of what they did when they traded for JPP. JPP came in here and half of a hand, if you will, and he made an impact. And this day and age, guys right now, 34, 33 is considered old. There's guys now that are playing till 36, 37. I think Levante could very well be a guy that plays maybe another year, depending if this guy plays at another high level like he did this year. Should he come back for another year? That's to be determined. But I think a guy like
how old do you think Jason Pierre-Paul was when we traded for
was it
him?
29 or 30?
28, 29 years old.
And
so again, that's a completely different situation than trading for a 32-year-old. And granted,
I get it.
JPP was more established, so I agree. I think that's where people got to realize, Ken, you have a point. Just because you trade for a guy who has a name for himself somewhere else doesn't mean it's going to translate to another organization. The Bucs have fell for that trick a lot. Remember, we thought Chris Baker was going to.
Yeah, I think he makes more sense to the Falcons than he does for the Bucs. Just at this present moment, given where both situated where teams are, Jason Light has built this roster for the long term. He also values third-round picks, second-round picks. That's where he's made his money. Not necessarily on day one, but day two has been some of Light's best picks during his time period. Yes, he drafted a kicker, sure. But he also drafted Antoine Winfield Jr., and I'll take that trade-off any day of the week. That's just where Light eats. He got Carlton Davis, Jamel Dean. These are day two guys. Again, I think next year you're looking at probably an edge in the first round and probably eventual Dean's successor or, a competition for Zion in day two next year. Do you want to trade that for a 32-year-old pass rusher? I wouldn't. That's just me, but I think for the Falcons, it makes sense. But I don't think the Falcons are a better team than the Bucs. If you just want to look at the rosters, and even Kirk Cousins, let's say Cousins is even 70% of his, former self, just year one or halfway through the season as he builds back up. I mean, he's 36-year-old with an Achilles. I know the offensive line for the Falcons gets a lot of, praise as being one of the best units in the NFL. I disagree. Desmond Ridder did a really good job of avoiding sacks. And Kirk Cousins ain't going to do that. We saw that with Brady. But Cousins ain't going to get the ball out as fast as Brady did. So from that regard, again, you can blitz Cousins. They only really have one weapon. Their slot receiver, their wide receiver 3 is Ray McCloud. Tampa Bay great. Love Ray. He's a returner. They don't have weapons. Yeah, they have Drake London. They have Bijan Robinson. No one's figured out Kyle Pitts. So I'm not even going to call him a weapon yet.
Kyle Pitts might be OJ Howard 2.0. And you're right. If Kirk couldn't win it with Justin Jefferson, Addison, and Hockenson at the helm, what do you expect for Drake London? This is no shot to Drake, but he ain't no damn Justin Jefferson.
Nope.
This is what Slick and I have talked about. And as also the line is solid, but is it great? I disagree. The same with their defense. Bates, stud. But that's it. We know how to game plan.
Terrell had a down year too.
Exactly.
Also, taking into account these blitzing schemes that Todd Bowles likes to put in DBs as well. It's not like it's going to be just backers. It's going to be DBs as well. And that's with the acquisition of us having another safety that has been in Todd Bowles' scheme that can blitz. You've got Antoine Winfield. We all know that can blitz. We know we've got guys in and around the ball that can sniff it out if they need to. Christian Izzian did it as well. He got a few sacks as well. We were all talking about him.
Tyree Smith's highlight tape from Georgia. You have a Jordan Whitehead, Antoine Winfield level blitzer. I think, honestly, he's going to provide what basically Devin White would provide from a blitzing standpoint.
Who's
so
Devin
we're
White?
good.
Who is that? Who's Devin? I don't know who that is.
Devin White. Is that inside joke?
The guy who couldn't cover. The guy.
Yeah, well, he's a one-trick pony. Wink, wink. Who can only blitz.
He literally is the embodiment of a horse's ass, and we like that.
Did you watch him get engulfed in the preseason game for the Eagles?
Yes, we did. I loved it. Yes, we
did.
did.
I'm gonna have to check that out.
Oh, Slick, it was bad. It was bad. Trust me. Put it this way, Slick. The Eagles. What did I say about direction and locker room change? They're going through that, and Ken, I've talked about that. We've said the Eagles and Packers are much ranked higher than the Bucs. It's a narrative media. Let's just take it down. Let's break it down. When the Bucs had Brady, the stories and the narrative was all over the place. Oh man, can Brady do it? And then when he did do it, oh yeah, man, he could possibly build a possible dynasty. When I heard that, I was like, wow. But then when Brady left, the Bucs became boring and useless, and we were expected to be a wasteland. However, they didn't take in the fact that the Bucs still had the same squad. The Bucs are getting better. but we're boring. We're not a good enough story. So now they want to use it against us. The Eagles, they're going off by what they did 2 years ago. They want the Packers because the Packers beat Dallas. Even though we know that Dallas is terrible and we know what Dallas is. So the Bucs are not good enough in their minds for a good story, but this is where the Bucs are going to shut everybody up. Because Ken and I discussed this on Twitter before. I said this. The Bucs are going to go 4-0. I'm with you on this, Slick. I was shaky about Detroit. The Bucs are going to beat Detroit because
didn't I call that? I did call that.
Yeah, Bowles, you too, Louis. Bowles has a way of saying not twice. And I just think Detroit is
Lions did it last year twice. I'm just going to throw that out there.
They did do it twice, but no. They actually, if you go back to that playoff game, the refs gave the Detroit that
There's
game.
a couple of things in that playoff game that didn't favor it. I mean, they definitely targeted Zion McCullum. The moment Dean went out of that game, was like, we're going
as
to
they should. But
of course, as they should. You're not going to sit there going, hang on, they've just changed it to their backup.
But
we'll leave him alone.
That play though, where Evans
it's not fair,
where he grabbed the ball and the corner never turned his head around. I had a problem with that. When Otten scored the first touchdown for us, they wanted to call offensive interference and they had to take it back. The calls were very sketchy. So Ken, that playoff game, if you think Detroit walked away happy, I always tell Slick this, and Louis knows now. Detroit walked away going, thank God. Woo, they
got away with
that game. If Baker
it was a good game. It was genuinely a good competitive game.
If he doesn't fool us for Otten, the Bucs win that game. You know why I believe that? Baker drove and marched down the field against the not only the Texans and the Falcons, and we won one of those two games. So Baker had it. Detroit, I'm not believing just yet. They got the first 6 games. Detroit is going to show us who they really are. People adjust. If you don't think people are going to adjust to Amon St. Brown, people are tripping. You want to know the weakness to Amon St. Brown? Just have someone keep jamming him and put a safety over the top. That's his weakness. When you give him cushion, he's going to make you pay. But
I will say, look out for Jameson Williams this year. Is my only. You have really good points. I'm just saying, I think Jameson Williams this year is going to really help the Lions. Mm-hmm. Obviously, I think we have a better safety tandem where our boy last year, I'm blanking on his name, the safety from Seattle.
No, it's okay. His name is a blank. He's a blank to us.
Ryan Neal.
You take 7 points off the board in that home Lions game right there. Couple big plays in the playoff game.
His name is Blank Man.
Ryan Neal, that's his name.
Perspective, I think there's 3 tiers that we really need to look at in the NFC. I mean, obviously, it's a way weaker conference than the AFC, just from a quarterback perspective, let alone teams. But I really think that the Bucs are in that 3rd tier, which I think is a really good place to be, because I think the other team that's in that tier is, 2 other teams now. I think the Falcons are in that tier. But I think the Bucs are better, but Falcons might end up with a better record. But that's a story for another day. But I think it's the Packers that are in that 3rd tier as well. And I know they're getting a lot of the love because of Jordan Love. But I think there's only 4 positions, including Jordan Love. I'll give him the edge over Baker despite only 1 year, of where the Packers may have a better player at a position. The Bucs win the other 17, 18 of the 22 starters.
Well, give me that, because the Packers don't have a receiver that scares me.
So receivers I didn't include. I included right or left guard. Elton Jenkins is a really good left guard. Brad Bredesen, no offense to him, but I gave that to the Packers. Okay. I gave Jordan Love. I gave Rashawn Gary, just because that's like the Will Golston position that essentially we have. It's what he plays. And then I gave the edge to Jair Alexander over Dean. But that's 4 positions.
That's fair. That's
fair. But that's it. If you look at every other position, you could argue Kenny Clark and Vita Vea, even though they're different. But I'll call that a push. So we'll call 16, 17 out of 21, 22 players. I think the Bucs are that much better than the Packers. But we just look at the Vikings. I think they're going to be a pretty weak team this year. The Bears, I don't think Caleb Williams is that. And then, the Lions will be the Lions, but the Packers might not even win their division. So from that regard, I mean, it's just like, I think, again, there's three tiers here. I think Cowboys are in tier 2 just because they do so well in the regular season. But again, if you're the Cowboys, if you're the 49ers, those types of teams, the Lions, the two teams I don't want to face are the Packers and the Bucs. The Falcons are an easily beatable team, in my opinion.
100%. 100%. Kirk Cousins, we already know he has a history of flaming out when the game's on the line. If this was Vegas and the chips is pointed in the table, he's going to go, I'll fold.
Don't worry, I already got the Bucs at plus 400 to win the division this year, so it's now down to like plus 300.
Slick to tell you when I said the Bucs would win the division by.
I think it's
going
going
to be. I said
week
week 13 or 14. Ken, I said that because it's the Panthers. If you've seen what the Panthers been like this past.
No, I live in. If you guys don't know, I live in North Carolina, so I'm very aware of what's going on in Panthers land. It's not pretty. Even people who, wanted Bryce Young to be their quarterback, they're already out. I'm the one who's convincing people to like Dave Canales around here. I think Canales is super personable, but he's
a likable guy. I'll give him that.
He's inexperienced.
There's a big problem there.
Offense is going to take the next step. Liam Cohen, this is what he was built for.
Yes, right.
He left opportunities to call plays. He has years upon years. Yeah, he was, the OC for Sean McVay. And then that's where Zach Robinson, who's actually for the Falcons, never called a play before.
That's right.
Ding, ding, ding. That's going to run into some issues. But Liam Cohen has. He went back and forth with Kentucky, and guess what? Kentucky won 11 games in the SEC.
I was about to say, Kentucky, I wanted their running back from Kentucky. I love their running back, but you're saying everything. Canales, we're gonna find out, was he a luxury or was he had a luxury cast to help him? People don't realize when you have a star-studded cast, that is what can excel you. Canales doesn't have a Mike Evans, Chris Godwin, and let's even go to the line. He ain't got a Tristan Wirfs. So this is why
he doesn't have a coaching staff. Remember, he doesn't have a tree. He took basically our leftovers that Bowles was already on the fence on, and we obviously had the worst run game in the NFL. Harold Goodwin, where did he go? He went to Carolina. Our offensive line coach, where did he go? To Carolina. It's a copy and paste. And Canales, what we saw was his run game was copy and paste. And I think Canales did some really good things last year, but the problem was he didn't know what to do because he didn't have experience, confidence. It was when you're in this late game situation, he was doing the same things that led you to that point rather than hitting someone, with something big or something new or a play you had in your back pocket and we're just going to bring out for these types of moments. That's not what he's built for. Liam Cohen, you just saw it in the preseason game. It was 5 formations. It was 8 plays. The Bucs passed for 260 yards and ran for 130. And no offense to the Bengals, but the Bengals aren't this, shitty team. And they also played their starters.
They did
the series, but they played their starters. The Bucs did not. And it's not like we did anything special, but what there was open windows. There was plays that led into different plays, sequences. It was just there was a flow to the game that Canales. It was like you had 3 really good plays or a really good drive, right? And the Canales didn't know how to follow that up. It would be like, okay, running back dive, play action.
Too much
on third
inconsistency.
Down. It was easy for a defense to figure out, and then you kind of have to reinvent the wheel again. But you can't do that during an NFL game. You get 7 or 8 series to really get points on the board before you're in the last quarter trying to figure it out.
And what I love is with Cohen, I think he's the kind of guy where he's not going to take his foot off the gas. I think Bowles this year understands you do your part on the offense, I will do my part on the defense. Cohen, I think, is going to be the guy where he wants to get up early. I think the Bowles defense excels very well. They're elite-esque when the Bucs offense take care of business. When the Bucs offense takes care of business, It's too much
But then
pressure.
it allows you to be more. It allows you to be more aggressive because you can now take shots. You can now go after that quarterback. Whereas before you're like, I don't really want to because I could put us in jeopardy. I could put us in a position where we could harm ourselves. I don't want to take the risk. He'll still dial up blitzes, but maybe there's a section on his playbook is I'm going to whoop ass, and he can't touch that until they go up a little bit more. And we've seen that when the Buccaneers are comfortable, the defense plays even harder and even faster. Why? Because he's probably opening up the call sheet because it allows him to have that little bit of leeway where you can go, you know what? I'm going to dial it up. I'm going to send another guy. I'm going to send a guy from this direction, a guy from that direction. I'm going to just fuck everything up for this guy. And I'm hoping that's what we get, an attritional run game and inconsistency, because I think that was the only thing that we were missing. There were times where the game, it got better towards the season ended. And I have no ill will against Dave Canales. I do think it's a jump way too soon. I do think he should have probably spent at least 2 more years as a coordinator. Me personally, I'm a coach myself. I don't think I'm ready to be a head coach. I don't want any of that smoke. I'm quite happy to go to maybe defensive coordinator. I'm happy to
football.
I agree.
I mean, he was handling, details of games. He wasn't even like a quarterback's coach. He was a quarterback's coach for 1 year when Geno Smith was there because a coordinator left for a different job.
Yeah.
That's the reason why he was promoted. He was a quality guy. Like, he was a guy who was barely even on the sidelines. He'd be in a booth during games. So, like, from that perspective, he said before he got the job, occasionally he would give insight into like, oh, I see this. But that'd be like 1 or 2 plays a season where basically he'd have that experience. Then he was a QB coach, but obviously they're not calling plays. So he gets to the Bucs, and Bowles is so worried about him that he does these call-it periods, which, by the way, I now love. I'm surprised more teams don't do this. To anyone who's played football, typically in a practice, everything's scripted. So if you're on like the scout team, they're saying, hey, defensive line, you're slanting this, do this, coverage is this. And it's like the first team offense just to basically pick you apart. And then vice versa, the defense, you throw an interception so the defense can get it basically. But you already know what the route concepts are. But in a scripted period, you have no idea what the heck's going on either side. So that was great. Canales got some experience, sure. But what happened? His buddy that he was sharing an office with gets a GM job, which, by the way, I don't think he's fit for a GM job, mind you. And then what is his first order of business? Kind of what happened with us. There wasn't really many options, so we settled for Dave Canales. And good on Bowles for finding him out of nowhere. That's great. But again, a GM basically hires a guy with barely even any, they're always looking after quarterback gurus. Yeah, Geno Smith had a good year, but he wasn't a coordinator for that. Baker Mayfield had a good year, but Canales could have easily ruined it just as much as he helped it. I mean, I think he helped Baker more mentally than he did schematically.
I agree, 100%.
That's a fantastic take.
But that's the most important part right there, getting that person mentally ready. The schematics will be there. I think for Baker, Liam fits him better because they did have a repertoire in LA. And I think Liam is going to explain this. And this is why I think the Bucs will start 4-0, not because of the defense. Louis, you might have a point. I do think the defense will be something special, but I think the early 4 games, this Bucs offense is going to have to be not the unsung. They're going to have to be the in-front heroes. Get out early. Make your defense not – let them take them risks that we want offensively. Absolutely. We want this Bucs run game to – Slick knows this, guy. Ken, I always say this. I just want the Bucs run game to be average. With the receiving core we have, just be average. And we can see that.
We can respect it.
The Bucs will be, this is why I think the Bucs will be 4-0. Liam Cohen is going to come out firing and saying, look, especially that Detroit game, he's going to be like, we want to get up early. So Detroit, we want to see what Goff can really do under duress. Because
I think,
go ahead, Louis.
I think Liam Cohen's got a lot to prove this year. Like, I think it's basically going to not balls to the wall like 100 miles an hour, but I think he's got a lot to prove. I think teams like the Lions and the 49ers are going to be put on notice by the Buccaneers because, I mean, how many more years are we going to get blown out by the 49ers? How many, like that game? I agree, that playoff game
last year was pretty solid considering the Byron Leftwich we lost by 5 tutties. The game last year was pretty solid, at least in my. That shows how much better we got.
But I'm just saying, like,
imagine now with a guy who can actually call a play.
Yeah, like that's why I'm saying, like, a guy like Dave Canales, I like Dave as a human being. I think he's an awesome human being. I mean, there are only 32 jobs in the NFL, so I think he made a big mistake by by leaving. I think he needed, like you said, Coach, I think he needed another year or two under this offense. And why not? You know what I'm saying? You have the guys here to
why not learn to be a head coach rather than just try and be one straight away? The thing is, his career shot up from a quality control guy or a wide receiver. I think he was a wide receivers coach as well at one point, to quarterbacks coach, offensive coordinator, head coach in the space of 3 years is a huge leap. And I will tell you, I went from being a defensive backs coach to a DC in my second year, and I was barely a defensive back, and I was like, shit, this is so much more responsibility. Then I took a step down because I went to a better team, and became a defensive backs coach. I'm assistant defensive coordinator now. And if someone said to me, I got a head coach job for you, I'd say no, because I don't think I'm ready, because I would rather I wouldn't want to sell the guys that I would coach down a fucking river. And that's just me personally, right?
Absolutely.
I would be like, I am not ready to coach a group of men to go and win a championship yet as their head coach. As a defensive coordinator, yeah, I probably could. I think at a push, I could really do it. I'm way more equipped than I was 4 years ago. Learned a lot in that time. And I think that's what Dave Canales should have done. But the problem is when someone turns around and says, I'll pay you X amount of money, the money between a defensive coordinator, a coordinator,
32 jobs in the NFL is a different pay scale, man.
Huge difference between you can be the highest paid OC in football, and it won't even, it might not even be 50%.
But that's why I keep saying I get why he did what he did. But I mean, the thing is with the Panthers, man, that's a huge. I mean, to take that job on, and me and my co-host Jamie said it months ago in the offseason. I'm like, you know what? I like Dave a lot. I think he's a great guy, but to take that job on, there's only 32 head coaching jobs. You got to take one, but that's an uphill battle, man. I mean, that quarterback that they got there, Bryce Young, he's a little undersized, but they never. Again, what I keep saying is if I'm Dave, you should have at least did something with that early pick and go after like an offensive lineman. And what do I keep saying, guys? Those are not the sexy picks, but those are the necessary picks. You have to protect your investment. You got to give the kid a chance because the games are won in the trenches. You know, I don't see what Carolina did to really improve that team, but I don't really care about Carolina or New Orleans because for all I care, both of those teams are going to be fighting for last place, in my opinion. But to go back to what you said, I think this defense, like I said, I think it's going to take time for them to click. I think Todd has to see them in the first few weeks to see, all right, who's doing what to kind of put them in the best situation to succeed. But there's one thing that we cannot do is we can't play from behind. And that's why I don't think we're going to have that problem. I think the offense is going to be quick. I think they're going to be fast, and no defense wants to play from behind. I don't care if it's 7 points. When you're a defense and you go on the field and your offense put up 7 points for you and you're playing with a 7-point lead, it gives you the utmost confidence, and you've seen that with the Buccaneers. So, like I said, I keep saying it. I think the defense is going to start a little slow. I think the offense carries them until week 5, week 6, and then you're going to start to see how fast this Buccaneer defense really is. I just hope – I don't want selfishness. I just want – guys to just, as I can't believe I'm saying this because I'm from Massachusetts and the Patriots, just forgive me, Buck fans, just do your job. That's it. That's all I want guys on the defense to do. Just do your job.
The Patriot way got us a Super Bowl. Shit, I'm good with that.
No, that's not the Patriot way, brother. That's the Tom Brady way. That's
Tom Brady way. Yeah, Tom Brady way. He brought the Patriot way. He brought the Brady thing. And look, speaking of shout out to Brady, that man's winning in all aspects of life. He cannot be defeated.
Speaking of Brady, can I shoot a fun fact with Brady? So I seen something today was hilarious. I guess his ex-wife Giselle, they were going after some money issues or some shit, and
they're making fun of a soccer player who actually did that. A soccer player that Brady did not.
whoever that soccer player was, shout out to him, man. He put everything in his mother's name, man, and the wife got
Yeah, I
zero.
think he had like
Nada.
102 million like in net worth and got divorced, and the wife saw nothing of it because he put it all in his wife's and his mom's name.
That's awesome.
beautiful. That's beautiful.
Awesome. I thought that was Tom. I was about to say because I seen that today.
No,
I'm like,
someone did that and it got viral, but that's not legit.
Yeah, it's
no
not
shit.
legit.
Hey, but you know what? Whoever did that, shout out to that soccer player, man. That's all advice that we should all take.
That was a few years ago. So, but he's winning. But either way, Brady still can't be defeated. The man left Belichick and said, "Oh, you think you won because of you?
Yeah.
I'm going to show you it's me." But I want to go to this, guys, because this is another thing that I want to discuss. Because speaking of the reason why I'm glad we brought up this situation with the Vikings quarterback going out, because Slick know where I'm going with this. I want to see, and Ken, I like to say this: Mike Evans is a one of a kind of receiver because he makes quarterbacks, not the other way around. Let's see what Justin Jefferson is going to be like without a quarterback, because I don't want to hear anybody make.
I can tell you what he's going to be like.
He got 1,000 yards in 8 games with half of them not being Cousins.
That's cool. But
he's an amazing player. Don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
And I think Mike Evans' record is virtually untouchable just because it's so hard to. I mean, we see it. What happens? These non-contact injuries happen to everyone, and Mike's not. He's prone to a hamstring. We all know that.
Yep.
But so far, knock on wood. So far, so good this offseason. But no, I mean, Mike Evans is. They try to make Drake London, baby Mike Evans. Like that's.
I gave him that nickname. I'm sorry. I started that baby Mike Evans, man. I take full credibility for that.
He's a body type that's similar. He's got long speed, but isn't a burner. That type of thing.
He's a poor man.
And actually, he mossed Antoine Winfield last year in the Falcons home game, which no one else in my recollection has ever done that to Antoine. He usually does the mossing on the big receiver. Shout out Michael Pittman Jr. But from that perspective, you're not going to find another Mike Evans. It's crazy that the Bucs in a loaded wide receiver draft class got him second, and he's been the player that he's been for this time. And we're so blessed in the fact that I think he's gonna get the 12th not only just 1,000 yards in a row, but to start the career. And once he does that, you can just write his ticket. I think he's already a Hall of Famer, but I think once he breaks Jerry Rice or ties it or whatever, that he's going to go in. And the fact that we got the 2-year extension done is great. And curious to see what happens with Godwin next offseason. We only have 2 major, free agents next offseason with Godwin and Levante. So from that perspective,
it's going to be a big year for Godwin, man. Going to be contract years tend to bring out the best in players, apparently.
Last time Liam Cohen was the OC, this guy named Cooper Kupp went for the Triple Crown, and I can tell you one thing: Sean McVay, he had Odell Beckham for 7 or 8 games, but he's never had a Mike Evans, and that Odell wasn't the Odell that we all know and love.
You mean Odell?
So
I gotta ask
with these weapons,
Odell.
Well, I got to ask you guys all a question because obviously you guys know, but Ken, this is the first time me and you have converted.
Nice to meet you.
So, likewise, so I've been preaching that this year has probably been the most polished draft class that Jason Light has put together. And I've always complained throughout the past 2 years, this team lacks depth at wide receiver, at the outside linebacker position, and corner. Now they have plenty of depth. This is a question for all you guys, but I'm very excited about this year's wide receiving core. Me and my co-host were kind of going at it. He told me that the Bears he thinks that the Bears could have a better wide receiving core.
No,
believe me, I know. I told him straight out.
I'm not here for Keenan Allen.
Sorry, Jamie, I love you, brother, but here's the thing. I got to ask you guys, who is wide receiver number 3 on this team going in to week 1? Trey Palmer, AJ, who you got?
Palmer's just too established right now. I wouldn't be surprised if McMillan takes him over at mid-season. I would not be surprised if that happened, but right now it's the Trey Palmer show until it's not.
Yeah, and guys,
Ken, who do you got?
Jalen McMillan.
Jalen McMillan.
look at this list, guys. This is why this was going into the next subject, because this is disrespect. I don't give a damn what nobody says, but
They put Nakua over Cup. Sorry, I'm just looking at they always put the more dominant one in front. So Nakua's already better than Cup. That just tells you how bad Cup is then, or the estimation of this. I would still put
co-host
Cup over
Jamie.
Nakua.
You see that list, brother? You guys are not. The Bears are not even on that. Sorry, buddy. I love you. I know I'm going to catch shit on the next show.
We have Miami, Philly,
LA,
and San Francisco. So I'm not surprised there. And then the Bengals, I think T. Higgins is overhyped to what everyone thinks he is.
100%.
So I'm not surprised again that there's 4 big markets ahead of the Bucs, which we already see what that is on
LA, Philly, Miami,
and then the Bengals are, again, it's T. Higgins. I think no one here is going to argue Jamar Chase, but I would argue T. Higgins. But again, is that who? I don't know who did that. PFSU football. I've never heard of them.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I'm just sitting here.
Having Lamb and Brandon. I'm sorry, Brandon Cooks. Why is he even on this list?
Tyler
Lockett. I love Tyler Lockett. When was the last time Tyler Lockett looked legit?
Somehow, fucking Cowboys make it on every fucking list. I don't get it.
This. Damn that. Why is Evans and Godwin, who are Super Bowl champions, at number 6? Nakua had 1 year. Whoop-de-doo. We saw that with Cup. You see what happened.
Well, we saw it with Jordan Love already being ranked as a top 5 quarterback and paid as the top level.
I swear.
Because
I'm taking Baker over Jordan. I'm taking Baker over Jordan Love.
No,
me too.
I'm sorry. Me too. I don't even want to get on that with the Jordan Love situation with that contract, man. I get it. He's in a contract year, but anything can happen. As far as this list goes, I mean,
where do you get these fucking idiots, huh? Where do you get them?
Exactly, silly. Where do you get these idiots? I mean, Ayuk, he's with the Steelers. I mean, the Cup, I can see that. But I honestly, I think you put the Bucs over the Rams. Chase and Higgins. I mean, Higgins, I don't know. I would say Bucs 3.
Let's break it down a different way, right? Is Hill better than Mike Evans?
I say he's faster. Who's being faster better?
But in the grand scheme of things, as just a pure wide receiver, I would say right now Hill is probably better than Mike Evans, and I'm okay with that. Is Waddle better than Godwin?
No.
Yes.
Okay. Does the combination of Hill and Waddle outweigh the combination of Evans and Godwin?
No.
I think so.
I think it does. I think it does.
I think it does.
They're the only duo I put above Evans and Godwin.
I got to be a football realist here.
Is Evans better than Brown? Yes.
Yes.
I think so. I take Mike over Brown.
Is Godwin better than Smith?
Yes.
Is the combination of Brown and Smith better than the combination of Mike Evans and Godwin?
No.
Yes,
No.
Because I would take Mike and Chris in a playoff game over Brown and Smith, because Brown and Smith already had their chance as a duo in a playoff game. Brown pouted, Smith couldn't come up. So yeah, I'm taking Evans and Godwin in a playoff game, and we proved it.
You put them in the second spot.
You what?
You put them in the second spot.
I honestly, in that second spot, I would put Nakua and Cup in that second spot. I'd put Evans and Godwin in the third.
Only just had 1 year in the National Football League. He could flame out.
He looked good. He looked good, man. He looked good. I'm telling you.
But I'll say this, Louis. Be careful. High volume receptions doesn't mean you're elite. We've seen that with Michael Thomas, slant boy, and then what happened when they took his receptions away? He folded. That's why Nakua, I would put Nakua and Cup at 8.
Because he's just doing no disrespect, but I just think
I was about to make a gentleman's bet. I was going to make a gentleman's bet with you guys because AJ, I'm going to be going down to DC soon because my co-host lives in DC.
Okay,
but I think I'm going to back away from that gentleman's bet. Never mind. Just
because come down here, we can you catch her around on me. That's cool. Show you how the DMV works. Hook your
DMV, baby. It's the DMV. I'm not gonna lie. I do miss. I lived out there for 3.5 years. The DMV, baby.
Which part?
I was in Silver Spring, Maryland for a little bit.
You was in Moco County. Good for you.
Yeah. And then
That's
I
Rich County, Slick. They got money out there.
Yeah.
That's a recession-proof county. There's a lot of counties in the DMV that are recession-proof.
Yeah,
out here.
and then I lived in downtown DC for a while.
What
and,
part? Northeast,
right
Southeast?
off of I don't remember. I know it was like Corcoran Ave, like next to Adams Morgan. Down like
Oh,
in that
okay. You on the
area.
north side. You was on the north side. North.
Yeah, it was nice. It wasn't bad. Adams Morgan was the shit, man. I'm not gonna
Of
lie.
course,
Every
you probably
Thursday,
had them
Friday,
big-ass pizzas. Them big old $3
jumbo slice, baby. What's
jumbo
up,
slice
man?
pieces. Yeah.
Sponsor us. What's going on?
Slick, they're only good when you are intoxicated. If you eat it
Oh,
sober,
God, yeah.
that's when you throw up.
And
That's
the
when
line,
you throw up.
the line is out the door, baby boy. The line is out the
Exactly.
door.
Ken, if you ever been to DC, Adams Morgan, if you get intoxicated, jumbo slice is just good for restoring your energy.
And there was a
If you knew
spot.
how tall I was, you would realize that alcohol doesn't really affect me unless I get to the point that drinking so much it makes me want to throw up before I feel a buzz.
Oh, we got a heavyweight in here. Okay,
We got a challenge
Yes,
here.
man,
I got something that will get you feeling nice.
Ken said he drank Aristocrat for breakfast.
All right.
I hear you.
Yeah.
I'm 6'7", if you guys don't know, so that's
Dan. Don't stand next to me then, because I'm only 5'5", man. Don't stand next to me. Man. Don't stand next to me, man.
I'm 6'2". AJ's 5. What are you at? 5'9"?
5'7", but you know.
Yeah, I'll stand next to you, AJ, but I ain't standing next to them. I'm standing next to them.
You my bodyguard. I'm talking all the shit. If it's Saints fans, can we have it's our legal document, constitutional right to say something negative. I'm calling this the Saints.
There's two Saints guys that I'm nice to, but everyone else can
listen. I'm a pretty nice guy. I'm very mellow. You get me a little bit on the sale of Jerry, and you start talking Saints football. I'll show you what's up.
Yeah,
I'm just saying.
You guys don't interact with John O'Barnes, please do.
We've had him on the show before. He's a good dude.
Yes.
I like him. He's funny.
But at least he understands. He's aware. See, there are Saints fans out there who are in denial. We'll be like, you do know y'all ass, right? No. Well, we had this moment.
Well, let me ask you this. Good question. So I do a segment during the season on the podcast, the Frozen Pirate podcast. Yeah. It's called the State of the NFC South. Well, can we do like a little segment on that in this show?
Yeah.
The State of the NFC South. You guys down with that? All right. Real quickly. State of the NFC South right now. We're in the third week of preseason right now. Well, I don't know what you want to call it. The training phase of the young gentlemen here in the NFL. All right, state of the NFC South, guys. Who finishes last, the Saints or the Carolina Panthers?
It's going to be the Panthers. It'll be the Panthers. They're just that bad. The Panthers are doo-doo sauce.
What if I said the New Orleans Saints are going to be the ones that finish last in the division?
Oh, that'll even better. That'll give
me last time Dennis Allen, has lost 6 or fewer games. That's my only comeback there.
I think
with some talent, not a lot, but some talent.
I think the state of the NFC South. I don't know if you guys ever listened to my show, but last year my co-host and myself, he would give me shit. At the beginning of the season, I was like, hey, the Atlanta Falcons, they kind of make me nervous because they kind of loaded up with I'm not afraid of the Atlanta Falcons, but the amount of talent that they drafted, they got talent. The biggest problem with Kyle Pitts is not Kyle Pitts. I think it's the quarterback situation. You put Kyle Pitts with Patrick Mahomes, you're talking one of the best tight ends in the NFL. You put Kyle Pitts on the Baltimore Ravens, you put I'll even say the Bengals or even the Buccaneers. You're talking like this guy is a threat. They're killing his career in Atlanta right now. They haven't won shit since the Bucs put the beating on them. So
game was probably beautiful because it was that one. Is that the one with the fucking meme with the guy fucking like he's dancing when he misses the tackle?
Oh man!
Oh,
the Saints player.
No, that's Case
no, that's Minneapolis Miracle.
Yeah, that was Case Keenum.
That was the Saints, but that was the year before he was on.
Yeah, that was Case Keenum.
Because that was Case Keenum.
Case Keenum is a miracle worker before Kirk. That's why.
Well, that was the whole point. They thought they paid Kirk Cousins all this money because they thought he was going to take them to the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
And they barely made the playoffs. He made.
How come Kirk Cousins is not in jail?
Okay, I got you.
He stole so much money, dude. I mean, come on. He's made more money than Tom.
I got you the fraudulent quarterback head coach duo. Take him to Carolina. And you got a fucking guy who's hoodwinked a fucking entire NFL franchise to take him from a fucking OC who's only plays 1 year in his entire life, and take a quarterback who ain't won shit.
But the defense, Brent, guys. So as you said, in the state of the NFC South, and knock on wood and prayers, and again, for everybody who's injured, I hope you have a good rehab and you can come back. But the Panthers have the most injured players. The Bucs are the least. Now we're gonna keep that in prayer and hope so. But you said,
well, Mike went down in camp today, right?
Who?
Mike went down in camp, but he came back. Like he had like a little, like it was like a little thing. I heard that he went down in camp today.
And then he got back up. No, Mike was fine.
I heard he went down in camp, but he came back.
Payne Durham was the one who got taken out of practice today with a knee injury.
All right, because I heard something about Mike. Mike, he kind of got shooken up a little bit, but he came back to practice. Like he got up on his own. I don't know.
Mike had like 10 touchdowns today, according to whatever I saw.
Yeah, I was about to say.
Right.
I want
Mike Evans probably just pulled a bit of a hammy.
Right.
But even then, he didn't come out or anything to my knowledge.
And I wanted to get on that little last segment because today Ken and I were discussing that people were really ramped up about the Jaguars, saying, "Oh, the Bucs had an off day today," and I'm sitting back like, "Yeah, Trevor was supposed. If Trevor had trouble against our second and third string, I would have major concern."
Well, yeah. I mean, like the whole point of 7-on-7 drills is so a quarterback can, I mean, we watching all these camps. All of these quarterbacks are what in high school? Amazing at 7-on-7, right?
Right.
Like, that's the whole point of these drills is to literally have a quarterback succeed, because what is the biggest thing a quarterback hates? Tom Brady? Pressure. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So you have no pressure in front of you. Defense is basically playing a zone. So it's just like you pick that shit apart. And they're not even going against ones. They're going against twos, maybe even threes. So, like, I'm not concerned about that. And then also, what'd you hear? The Bucs defense struggled, but also the Jags defense struggled because they're doing the same exact shit.
Exactly.
And then additionally, you heard what? The defense.
I hate 7-7.
Well, I don't think the Jaguars defense destroyed our offensive line, but our defensive line destroyed their offensive line. I was a tackle. The whole point on one-on-ones, the offense is at a severe disadvantage. So, like, that's the name of the game.
This is how we get better.
Struggle in these practices. And the defense, even if the ones are in, they have no film that they're going off of.
Mm-hmm.
And these coaches have already scripted this shit out. Or they're telling, hey, Zion, I want you to do this on cover 3. Like, I want you to play this technique. I want you to do this. Try it out. Maybe it's different footwork or whatever. That's going to happen. The offense, they might be doing, again, quick hitting passes. Like, you know what I mean? It's just like the whole point is the offense is supposed to succeed. So if I'm hearing that the defense is struggling in the first day of a joint practice, let me see what happens on Saturday before I at least freak the fuck out.
Yeah. I don't.
What did we do to the Jaguars? What did we do to them?
Yeah. Exactly.
They were playing for their playoff lives.
I think a lot of this stuff is a lot of media hype. You know what I'm saying? At the end of the day, yeah, like it's Johnny Manziel was notorious for this. But at the end of the day, I mean, a lot of the
so that's why
it's a lot of hype just for views. And I mean, at the end of the day, it's just practice. This is first day of this again, like what Ken said, hey, go out and go do this. Let me see and that's coach saying, hey, let's see if he can do this. I'm not buying into like, it's just like fear, like, hey, the Bucs, should we be concerned? Nah, man, like we're fine. It's all good. This is why we play the preseason. This is why you're not going to see. I don't like guys like Mike and Chris playing they don't need to do that. Like the young guys, they need the preseason. Like when I see stories like this, when I hear, Baker, so-and-so threw a pick or this guy did, man, this is a trial run. This is trial and error. Like coaches doing the stupidest shit to see if it works. You know what I'm saying? He jots that shit down. Hey, you know what? I did this in training camp in week 2 of training camp, and that worked. Let's work on this a little bit more. Let's continue this. Hey, he's pretty good at this. I'm not buying into that stuff, man. That's just media hype.
Zion and zone coverage is on film. Zion was our second best corner last year, in my opinion. Carlton Davis can't play zone. So when we were talking about Amon Ra beating him up, what was he doing? He was playing man because who's across from Carlton Davis? So you got to play man. You can't play zone with Carlton. All I have to say is watch the Houston Texans game, and you'll find exactly how Carlton Davis.
Won't even remind me of that Houston Texans game. I went off on the post game, man, because
you're trying to make Carlton play zone, and you can't do it.
Can't do it.
That cushion cover shit. Ooh, I almost. Slick could tell you, I had a rant. I was like, why is Carlton Davis 8-yard back?
But the problem that I had with the problem I had with that shit, man, was just like, this is the thing that like a lot of people were like, oh, we just traded away one of our best corners. I'm like, at the end of the day, I predicted him being a cap casualty. I said, hey, if we're gonna part ways with somebody, I'm okay with them trading Carlton Davis, because when Carlton Davis has a bad game, I don't know if you guys noticed, but he's got a really bad game. Like,
no, I agree.
Like reason why we lost the game. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's tough, man. And I wish him all the best.
If he actually had hands and didn't have hands like a digital watch,
he would be.
That interception though against the Lions. Oof.
Yeah, guys like Zion McCollum though. I like Zion a lot, but one guy I like I said, I've been vouching for this kid, Tyke Smith. I like him a lot, man. He's this is a Todd Bowles defensive back, man. This kid's versatile. I'm telling you, if this is a kid that I want to see, like I want to see him blitzing. He's fast.
I think you'll see him at nickel. I don't think you'll see him at outside.
Him and Christian Isian.
Yeah, no.
A lot of people are ripping him off.
He's a nickel. Let's leave it at that. He's a nickel and like a backup strong safety for Whitehead.
Yeah, I can see that.
I like him. I like the kid a lot. Real quickly though, because I wanted to say something while you guys were talking about Devin White, but I wanted you all to say your piece. I know we don't want to talk about him on the show, but I kind of had a kind of like a controversial take about him, because I was a huge fan of Devin White. When that rookie year, that second year, that third, I was just like, holy shit, man, this kid has the potential to be in that category of the Derek Brookses, of the Ray Lewises, like being serious, like the kid with the speed, like he's got speed. I mean, back in the day, you've never heard of linebackers running that fast, you know?
Yeah.
But I did have a controversial take on him. I said, hey, the stats don't lie. So let me ask you guys this. I think, so did you guys watch that interview he had with, what is it called? The Pivot or the Pilot podcast? Did you guys watch that?
I've listened to it.
All right. Real quickly, how did you guys, Ken, we'll start with you. How did you feel about, like, when you were listening to Devin White talk? Like, do you think he's wrong on certain situations, or because I'm going to go off because I feel like I want the world to hear what I got to say about Devin White. So Ken, go ahead. Take your time. What did you take from that interview? So honesty, just true honesty.
Yeah, he's an unreliable narrator. And again, I've talked with certain individuals, but I'm not going to name names. But I will say there's people like Rick Stroud's, Greg Almonds of the world who are in the building, know people, know things. And from their knowledge, a lot of the things that was said was not true. And they've made that public. So from that regard, again, take it from someone who's in the room, not me, who lives in North Carolina and all that type of fun stuff. But what did we basically see? I mean, we saw him loaf in the Baltimore Ravens game. He was probably hurt, whatever. But A, he was loafing, and B, every time Devin played bad or was accused of something, he'd get on Twitter, he'd get on Instagram and have an excuse for it. He had an excuse for everything in that interview. It wasn't like, hey, I didn't play up to the snuff. Like, the last 2 years were just, I just wasn't myself. I had other things going. Like, he didn't take any accountability. And that part, frustrated me, just because it's just like, hey, when someone takes their lumps, you want them to swallow their pride. And I wish Devin the best. But from what I saw and what I'm currently seeing on the field, it feels like he hasn't learned anything. So for him, I basically, if any of you are fans of Bull Durham, $1 million arm, 5-cent head, is the perfect encapsulation of Devin White. And then take it from Levante David, who went to Tom Brady's roast and he was asked a question on like basically who on the team could not take a joke, like about themselves or be a participant in like a roast. And he said Devin White. So that tells me just kind of about his personality.
Rich Eisen, wasn't it? It was on the Rich Eisen show. Rich Eisen asked Levante David.
Rich Eisen asked Levante David who basically could, or who wouldn't be able to handle that type of environment. And Levante's with that dude every day. So that basically tells me he can't look at himself in the mirror. But again, I still wish him well, but I hope he learns. I thought the Bucs situation was going to just maybe ignite something in his head and maybe get a decent payday somewhere or, whatever. But I honestly, I think Jeremiah Trotter Jr. is going to be playing over him. And he's an undrafted rookie.
Coach Slick, preach. What's your take on Devin White?
I'm a huge Devin White fan. I love the swag that he brought, the attitude that he brought to the players. He got more and more people into it as well, and that also probably comes from a little bit of Antoine Winfield Jr. as well, and I thought they had a great pairing too. It started so well, and it just got worse and worse. And when you're getting called out by people like, and it's not like he's being called out by nobodies. Like, it's like, let's face it, we're all nobodies, really. Yeah, you're being called out by a Tampa great. Somebody who would, if someone said the Mount Rushmore of Buccaneer players, you get called out by Warren Sapp and he calling you lazy.
Rip that C right off your chest.
Probably fucking lazy. Like, this guy knows football all the way through. The only reason he doesn't coach, well, he does coach now, but the only reason he didn't coach before is he just didn't want to get involved with children. And because of them being so big into social media and stuff, he's just not that big into it. But my point being is this guy can coach, this guy knows football, and I'm sure there's plenty of other people like the Ray Lewis's of the world going,
yeah,
boy. How did you come across in his interview? At first, I was like, yeah, maybe there's a little bit of misconception about maybe the organization did get involved to a point where it kind of soured the milk a little bit. But that does not excuse the play. That doesn't excuse the loafing. Like, you can't be outrun by linemen. I'm sorry. It's not. You've got this speed that we're all talking about. The fastest linebackers to ever to run the combine. But you've got linemen outrunning you. That's loafing. There's no, he could be injured. Absolutely. Made a bit more sense. The stuff that he said about his father, I could really not relate to, because I could understand and go, okay, I can see why maybe the wheels may have fallen off. That's over 2 years. You can't live off that. You can't live off those excuses. At some point, you got to turn around and say, you know what? And I remember this, and this is one thing that really irritated me about Devin White. We lost to the Atlanta Falcons last year. And he was asking, yeah, well, when you're whipping a team so many times, you get bored. So it's not the fact that he's not very good. He's not a talented player. It's just he sometimes gets bored and decides to go on a fuck around. Well, he fucking found out, didn't he? And then we all fucking found out.
Fuck around and find out, boy.
Fuck around and find out. And that's
AJ.
the problem I have with him.
AJ, your take. Because I'm going to go off.
In a nutshell, you had a moment. Winning the Super Bowl was a blessing and a curse for him. You had the moment where this team wanted to help you. And Ken, I don't want to, you already said you're not going to make any tell your sources, but I can already tell you from what I can sense is that people were trying to help you and wanted to work with you. He thought he was more than what he was worth, and his gameplay showed, but then the reality, the market humbled him. He'll never truly admit that. That's why he said, oh, I'm going to go somewhere else. But other teams didn't say, Devin White, we want you. Other teams didn't say you're worth $100 million. Other teams said, okay, you got good speed, but you can't cover for shit. Can you improve? Yes or no? Yes. Okay. The biggest disrespect I have is him going to a team saying that it's going to be better, the same team that we whooped in the playoffs. Devin White is unfortunately the new modern day spoiled brat, because if you go by his interview, he said,
Entitled?
I'm used to being this and that. Translation, I didn't get injured. Translation is everybody always used to tell me that I was the shit. And when reality hit me in the NFL that I actually have to be better after he got called out by the great Sap, because he had problems and people checked him. They said, you're not a Sap. You're not even Levante. Calm down. So Devin White, to me, I could care less now. It's not that I don't want to have him to have a good career, but with his mindset, the simple fact that he went to pivot with that bullshit shows me you're still immature. All you had to do was shut the hell up and take your ass to the Eagles and play. That's it. You didn't have to be on the pivot. Ryan Clark should have also checked him as well. And I get Ryan is just trying to be subjective. I mean, just playing devil's advocate. But at this point, I would have been like, look, man, why you on this show? You should be worrying about how to cover. And I hope when we play them in week 4, whenever Cohen plays a design play, hey, throw this right over Devin
Baker's
White's
gonna eat his
head.
ass up. Baker's gonna eat him up, dude. I'm telling you right
Exactly.
now.
So
White's not even going to be on the field, guys.
Yeah,
I'm telling you.
no, I agree with Ken. He took
the
the words right out of my mouth. Can I preach?
go ahead.
Because I'm gonna poke my cigar out on this one.
Go ahead.
Mr. Devin White. So this is my thing. I watched that interview, and it took me a bit. Hell, it was late in the day. Hell, I even got in the shower. I have this nice little radio in the shower that's with the light. I had it playing through the blue because I couldn't stop listening to it. I'm like, I need to hear what he's saying, because at one point Devin White was, top 3 on the Bucs as one of my favorite players. Because he brought that juice and that swagger back to the team. He was quick, and when I started seeing one thing that, was a red flag for me, but I kind of just swept it under the rug, was when McCaffrey was playing for the Panthers, and McCaffrey was like, hey, man, you're the best fucking linebacker in the league, inside linebacker in the league. He goes, oh, thank you. But then he went back to the sideline. He goes, 22 came up to me and said, I'm the best inside in the league. And I told him, I know. I was like, no, you didn't. You didn't say that. You said, oh, thank you. My son, 6 years old, shout out to little Cody, man. Huge second generation Buccaneers fan. Get Live 45, Dad. Get Live 45. Loves Devin White. The biggest problem with Devin White is not necessarily his skill of football. It's his fucking mouth. And we seen that. Like, what pissed me off about that interview, like, listen, I lost my father. All right. Me and my father didn't have the best relationship, but towards the end we did. And I wish he was still here. But I'm not sitting here loathing about why he's gone. Yeah, he never got to see my son be born and all that, but I'm not going to get into that because it's not that type of show. But to keep it real, I use that as motivation to be better than my father and carry on a legacy. I'm not going to sit here and say, oh, I went to go play a game and the team didn't really acknowledge this. Man, Quan Alexander, he lost his brother and he had the best game of his life. And he went on and he had a good season, man. Yeah, he's no longer with us, but, it is what it is. And then he starts sitting there saying, this is what really started to aggravate me was, oh, Mike called me. This one called me. That one called me. Man, you're just being rude. Like, first of all, they're not calling you because they want you back on the Buccaneers. They're your friends. Look, they're your friends. They're just checking up on you. And as far as being injured, man, I do construction. I do sewer, drainage, water main, I'm 20 feet in the ground sometimes, and I do a physical job. My lower back is blown out, but guess what? I still show up to work and I try to give 110%. There's days where I can't do it. And I'm just like, hey, man, I can't, like, you know what I'm saying? Like, I get that. But to sit there and criticize a team who's giving you everything, Todd Bowles is giving you everything. The fans have showed you nothing but respect. You want to go off on Twitter and say, oh, the organization wasn't paying nobody. No shit, they weren't paying nobody. If Mike Evans ain't getting paid, you ain't getting paid, man. You know what I'm saying? Like, we were, 35 million in dead cap? Like, sometimes you just got to take one on the chin and just be a team player. My advice to Devin White is this. Shut the fuck up and just play football. You want to talk about how great you are? Just shut the fuck up and play football. That's it.
Well, who will do it for you?
Yeah, because
can I give a hot take on Devin White?
Yeah,
be my guest.
He played maybe 12 good games of football over his 5-year career in Tampa. The 3 games in the playoffs, because he didn't play the Washington game, were amazing.
I compared his stats to Levante's first 5 years and his 5 years. They're kind of similar in a way, but they're two different types of linebackers.
When was Devin White's best play? Was when the defensive line was at, and not just a good, but an elite level.
Yep.
That was when when Devin was great. And watch the Jets game in 2022 when Levante was hurt, and pretty much watch the whole 2022 season. But especially when Levante was hurt, what happened to Devin in that Jets game? Like it's bad. It's real bad. And stats are great, but what he was allowed to do, and which is why we praise Levante David, was because Levante has instincts and goes and attacks the ball.
But that's why I agree with AJ.
Routes to the ball.
Yeah. But
because of Vita Vea being in his prime. Mm-hmm. Because Jason Pierre-Paul, Shaq Barrett, Ndamukong Suh. What happened to Devin White's play without Ndamukong Suh?
Oh, it changed.
2 to 3 blocks.
But that's why I agree with AJ. This is a guy, and it's not just him. We're seeing this with a lot of younger players like his age coming into the NFL. And this is my biggest advice.
More to it than that.
Yeah, like this is my advice to all the younger players in the NFL. Stay the fuck off social media. When you're a professional athlete, you got to stay the fuck off social media, because the downfall of Devin White was that fucking year when we didn't have an offensive coordinator. We were finding our offensive coordinator. This dude, I know exactly what happened. He went to Jason Light. They had a meeting. Hey, I want to get paid. I want Roquan money. Jason Light was probably like, yo, man, all right, I get you want Roquan money, but we can't pay nobody right now. This dude got butthurt and went to Twitter and started popping off and saying stupid shit. And it's just like, why are you doing that? You're now, what are you making this year? You're not even on the team that drafted you. You had a chance. So it went from Derek Brooks passing the torch to Levante David. Levante David I'm sure Levante worked his ass off to get that kid to pass the torch to him. And what did you do? You dropped it. You couldn't hang because you can't take constructive criticism, especially what we do, guys. We get criticized. What we do, we talk about the Bucs. There's things that people say. Somebody can say, hey, Ken, I don't agree with what you just said. Hey, coach, I don't like what you just said. We're not going to sit here and get mad about it. We're just going to analyze it. Okay, that's your opinion. It is what it is. Devin White is a guy who cannot take constructive criticism. And I'm sorry if you can't do that. And it's not just him. It's a lot of these younger players.
I got something for him. Since they love the social media, this is what happens. Social media can be a blessing and a curse. Right now, we got something that, like Ken says, this sums up Devin White in a nutshell.
Oh, boy.
Holy Jesus. What is that? What the fuck is that? What is that, Private?
Where's your brain there?
What's up?
Oh, yeah.
You know what movie that's from?
Oh, absolutely. That's a Full Metal Jacket.
There it is.
Look, and Devin White was Gomer Pyle. He was Gomer Pyle on that play. We got to do that one more time, because this is why I had to create this. This went in my mind when I saw this.
Holy Jesus. What is that? What the fuck is that? What is that, Private?
I wish you had the full play to show how bad his angle was there.
Oh, absolutely.
Let alone the tackle.
Gardner Minshew cooked you. Minshew.
I saw that. Yo, I watched the all 22 on that, and that was one play that I just constantly rewinded. I'm like, wait a minute, maybe something's wrong here. And I like what you just said, Ken. I was like, I could have made that tackle.
Yes.
I could have. I'm 5'5", 140 pounds. I could have tackled Gardner Minshew there. I would have saved the touchdown for the Bucs. What I saw there, I get it. Like when you lose a loved one, like your dad, like I get it. You know, it fucks with you, but at the same time, man, you got to use that as motivation. Like I don't understand his logic of thinking. Going back to that year when they hired Canales, when that it was the social media became, and at the time, Jay was my co-host. And me and him were going off, and he said it. He goes, the Twitter fingers, man, they get you in a lot of trouble. And what did you do after that?
Well,
nothing. And it disappoints me because a kid like my son, 6 years old, get live 45. That's his thing to say. He wasn't saying it that much this year. And even he said, he's like, Daddy, 45 ain't playing too good.
Yeah.
I'm like, I don't know.
45 jammed up. That's why.
45 jammed up. But it's just like, yeah, like I don't get it, man. But hey, to the best, like I'm not a hater. Much love to Devin White. Thanks for contributing to a Super Bowl for the Tampa Bay area. But the problem is, AJ, I agree with you 150 million%, man. This kid found success way too early in his career. And guys like Christian McCaffrey, who were trying to be those veteran guys that were saying, hey, man, you're one of the best. Like, it got to his fucking head, and it makes sense with Levante saying, Devin can't take constructive criticism. Listen, if you think Tampa, we're being crucial on you, you won't get it in Philly. You won't get it in Philly. I'm telling you right now. Two places where you can't do shit that you did in Tampa is Philadelphia, and I'm gonna say it because I live out here and I've been to Gillette Stadium. Sorry, Patriot fans, fuck you all. You guys are ignorant as hell. Is New England. You can't do those two things there. They eat you alive. So Tampa is laid back, man. Like, we're just like, we'll complain about it, but like Philly fans, they'll start throwing shit at you.
Oh no,
you know what I'm saying? Like, it's ruthless. So
I got a take for you. You know who Devin White reminds me of, but in a completely different position?
Antonio Brown.
That's
no. I follow Antonio Brown on Twitter. He's funny.
Oh, yeah. Leonard Fournette in a fucking nutshell.
Leonard Fournette.
Yeah.
Not Leonard. Lenny, playoff Lenny.
Actually, I mean, that's actually a really good take because I think Lenny's only really had maybe 15 good games in his career. And also what happened with Lenny, he said, me and the Bucs, mutually parted ways. And then
he was smarter about it. I think he got smart once he got here. I think he started to learn to play the business better after that whole altercation that he had.
No, I feel like Brady is the reason why he even got a chance with the Bucs.
For sure.
But the thing is, I would even say about Devin, just really briefly, was we heard in 2022 when obviously the Bucs were struggling in that last Brady year, won the division without a winning record. Todd Bowles was asked countless times about, team morale and all that type of stuff. And he said some of the players haven't come down from that Super Bowl high.
I remember.
What do you think he was talking about?
Oh, he was definitely talking about Devin.
He said champagne taste on a beer budget. I remember that with the contract situation. You're absolutely right, Ken. I forgot all about that.
Bowles probably, look, I guarantee you, Bowles probably was like more of a fuck you than Jason Light. Jason Light was the one probably trying to be.
Jason Light didn't pay Winfield early.
Yep.
He barely gave Wirfs, who's two-time All-Pro. Wirfs, no offense to even Mike.
11 holding calls in what, 5 years? Like,
Wirfs is literally Jason Light's, maybe his Hall of Fame pick, and maybe no offense to even Evans, Wirfs is on this trajectory of being a top tackle of like all time.
Well, no, he will be a tackle of all time.
And he didn't even pay him technically early. We saw all of these tackles who've gotten paid 3 years early. Wirfs had to wait till his 5th year.
Yeah,
and Wirfs every
no fucking money.
So the point is, no one in the
I keep saying that, Coach. There was no fucking money to pay.
Basically the same, unless you're a two-time All-Pro.
Yeah,
Listen,
can't.
The way I look at it is,
Evans, he was willing to play ball with.
Yeah.
Yes.
Like, who do you think you are thinking that you're going to get an early extension?
I will say this about Devin: the stats don't lie. Like you got the stats, but it's not just
stats. I don't think he. I mean, the tackles.
I think it's.
I think Bobby Wagner each year. Do you think Bobby Wagner's as good of a player as Demario Davis or Levante Davis?
I've got one for you for stats. This will settle the linebacker debate. I don't know why it's a stat that's not actually put in. Tackles attempted, tackles completed. You put that in, you completely change the game.
The dynamic.
Percentage. We do it with quarterbacks. We turn around how many balls they throw, how many balls get completed, and we go, they completed 45% of their passes. He's shit. He's completed 75% of his passes. He's fucking elite.
Coach Slick, can I steal that?
I
I've never heard anyone ever bring this up, and I think that's why is that never talked about, but for any defensive position.
Yeah, I agree.
Take
There's a lot of things that the NFL.
Worse, to be honest, because you have to sit there, but it can easily be done. It can easily be done. This guy went for a tackle, he whiffed. Done. He missed the tackle. This guy went for a tackle, he got the completion. Maybe it gets a little bit more convoluted with assists versus
but it's like catching. What is like a drop necessarily? You know what I mean? It might be a quarterback throwing a ball too high or too wide that a receiver can't hit. But it's like an error in baseball. It's up to whoever the statistician is. So for a missed tackle, it would be whoever's evaluating the tape, or like PFF or whoever.
I guess a guideline would get built from that. So you would turn around. The ball's got to physically touch the hands for the sake of arguing a catch, and then it becomes a drop. So if you got hands to it, then yeah, you should be able to reel that in.
But with the tackle, it's like, are you doing like a one arm, just like reaching out, or do you have two hands, or you're in position to make a tackle and you're with? Like, I think that's a great idea.
But I think
I love tackles,
that. Anyone who's trying to make contact and fails to make an impact, so as in their tackle does not contribute to that person going down on the ground, then I would say that's a tackle attempted and a tackle missed. With a tackle, let's say you clipped an ankle and they stumbled and then they fell down, I'll give that person that. I would say that's you impeded their ability to advance the ball and they were eventually brought down. So I give you the assist for it. That's how I would look at it.
Yeah, but either way,
it's probably a ball ache, but I'm sure you could pay somebody to do it.
Yeah, I mean, exactly. It's one of those things. Like, it'd
be so interesting just to see where all these linebackers, all these all-time greats, is like, what was their tackle percentage?
Also, safety. Imagine what Antoine Winfield's percentage is. That makes him more valuable. You know what I mean? So when he's up for a contract, I don't miss tackles. I get interceptions. I get sacks, yada, yada, yada. And then when you're trying to sign, like, let's say a middle linebacker, am I going to sign the 85% tackle percentage? Because even if he jumps on a game pile, sure, like, you got to tackle, like, whatever. But if he's in the 70s, that 60s, 50s, if you're Devin White, like, what does that mean?
It means that you can't trust that player to make plays consistently down the line all the time. That's why I love Levante. If you watch Levante tackle, he tackles like a rugby player. He doesn't actually tackle like
that. Look at Levante David's solo tackles versus total tackles each year. That's the difference between him and Luke Kuechly. That's the difference between him and Bobby Wagner. Those guys are equal tackle numbers, but Levante has about 60% of his tackles each year are solo tackles.
Mm-hmm. And behind the line of scrimmage.
And don't forget TFLs, which no one can touch him other than maybe Derek Brooks.
He is 5 yards away from the line of scrimmage on average, which is usually where an off-the-ball linebacker is. And he has more than guys who are actually at the fucking line of scrimmage. That is not happening.
When a rookie calls you out, I'll say subliminally. I don't know if you guys remember. I don't remember what game it was. I think it may have been against the Falcons. Do you guys remember when Savasio Dennis was in?
Yeah.
And Devin White missed the tackle and he didn't want to throw Devin under the bus being a rookie. He was just like, they were like, oh, what happened on that play where I think it was Kyle Pitts who he caught the ball down the middle and Savasio had to run him down and basically save the tackle. They were like, oh, what happened? You blew the coverage. He goes, I didn't blow the coverage. Somebody else blew the coverage. I just had to finish the play.
That might have not been on Devin that game. That might have been on blank man who was Ryan Neal.
Yeah.
Nah, man, I'm telling you, go back. I'm telling you, it was Devin White.
He didn't tackle.
They all left plays on the field.
Who's 23?
Blank man, Ryan Neal. So
who's that? I don't know who that guy is. Fuck that guy, man. You know what? Fuck him. He made me look stupid on my podcast, man. I'm like, yo, this is
linebacker than Devin White last year. Ryan Neal.
Ryan Neal did. That's pathetic, man.
Ryan Neal was awful. If he was so flat-footed, I know what you're talking about, Luke, because when Pitts caught it, go back. Ryan Neal's dumbass literally, he stood there and then he turned and Kyle ran right past him. I lost it. That's when I knew.
Wait, no, I remember the play now. It was for sure Neil. I'm 100%.
Was it Neil?
It was Neil. It was Neil because Neil.
I'm gonna go back and watch that.
Neil
I got to go
looked
back and watch
damn,
that.
He looked like an extra in Michael Jackson's Thriller. He just went, don't.
Damn.
But that might not have been the coverage. The coverage still might have been Devin.
Oh, no,
yeah, I'm
Devin
telling you, I
was
think
out
it
of
was
position.
Devin.
But
Devin
the coverage
was
might have been Devin, but the tackle should have been secured by
I
Yeah.
just remember the tackle.
Devin
he who's
was
might
out
not
of
been in.
position. Every
So you
time
have two
Devin-
gimps that failed on a play, and you had a rookie taking over.
2 additions by subtractions, and Whitehead obviously
But y'all
is
say
a
that.
clear better player. And KJ
You can't say
Brinson-
that word gimp. I get in trouble for saying that. Don't
Look,
say word gimp.
Whitehead is going to
Get in
be
trouble.
look. I said this, and they all heard me. Look, Whitehead and Winfield is Legion of Boom 2.0. They are literally Earl Thomas and Chancellor.
I had this debate with somebody. They were trying to tell me the Seahawks defense was better than the Bucs defense of
Don't
2002,
make
and I'm
me
like,
look,
as my co-host Jamie would say, keep smoking that copium, because
trolling. They were trolling. They were trolling.
yeah, like I don't see how you can sit there and say that I mean, yeah, the Legion Boom they were cool, but I mean they also played in a different era. That 2002 Buccaneer defense played in an era where men played football. This day and age, I mean,
you know why? Because it's just their name, the Legion of Boom. Look,
Yeah.
they look, the Buccaneers defense from 98 to 2007
we're a fucking force. They were a menace.
Nightmares. Legion of Boom just had a personality and characters and controversy.
We got
Marshawn
Sherman on the
Lynch
back end.
was
Yeah.
there. They had all that. So we're not the shit that they did, the Bucs in the Super Bowl, enough said.
You know
How
who
many
was the
times-
guy that I wish the Bucs never ever got rid of? That was the fucking I like to forget that was like I call that the era. I like the Stone Age era. I like to forget about. Remember when they got rid of Michael Bennett? They didn't want to pay him.
Yeah, I knew you were going to say that.
I don't want to say it. You don't say that.
Honestly,
You don't
Gerald
say
McCoy in my eyes. Yeah.
But y'all don't say that.
Listen,
don't say that.
listen. I think Gerald McCoy. See, I don't have like any like bad hostility towards Gerald McCoy. It's just the only problem I have with McCoy was he couldn't really anchor a defense. I don't even want to say that because it's just like that was a dark time.
I'm a big McCoy fan, and I will say this: who the fuck did he have around him to help him other than Levante?
And
Yeah.
It was him. It was just those two guys. You
Yeah,
take the rest of them, they were just fucking bums.
Yeah, like so I kind of was like, nah, McCoy don't belong in the Ring of Honor. So I kind of went back. I'm not lying. I went back. I went back and I started looking at shit, and I kind of eat those words. I shouldn't have said that because I'm a diehard Bucs fan from Massachusetts since '95, man. And I should have never said that. I kind of regret saying that because McCoy did everything he possibly could have with a team, a franchise, an organization, and ownership that just didn't really want to do anything. And I don't understand that. Why Bruce Arians wanted to part ways with him? I think I know why. It was a cap issue.
Cap issue, and I don't think he has that nastiness that he wants.
So Bruce Arians, he doesn't fit the Todd Bowles scheme because what Todd Bowles wants is he wants guys up front to eat up blocks, and what Gerald McCoy, to his detriment, is a one-gap attack, and that was his only problem ever.
Only play the free set.
The running back, he would beat his guy, but he would run past the running back. That was his only problem during even his prime years. And what they needed was a guy to just hold up, get 2 blocks, and Sue had some pass rush upside, but he was at the point in his career where that wasn't really an expectation.
Yeah. He brought nasty to what Bowles wanted. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
At the end of the day,
to be quite honest as well.
Yeah. At the end of the day, Aaron Rodgers, I don't know if you guys remember that game when Sue was here. Like, Aaron Rodgers still feared Ndamukong Suh, even though he didn't want to admit that, but he still did. I remember when the Bucs played the Patriots on that Monday night game in Tampa, and it was a close game, man. And I was talking a lot of shit to guys at work that were all Patriot fans. I'm like, I don't know. I think Gerald McCoy had one of his best games as a Buccaneer during that game because he knew the lights were on, man, and he sacked Brady 2 times that game, I think it was, or he had a sack in that. He played.
Where was Brady's biggest issue was up. middle of the defense pressure, whether that be
because he can't go that way. He can only go forward.
So I mean, again, that's what McCoy did. Is he beat one guy and it was great. I forgot who the guy who wanted the safety who wanted playing for the Saints. I think also picked off Brady that game, and it was like a pretty fun little close game there for a while.
17-13, I think it was.
Yeah, it was a fun close game. I remember that. But yeah, I mean, our defense just wasn't good back then. That was the only thing.
I mean,
EJ Biggers was probably getting cornerback snaps.
EJ Biggers, damn, holy shit! Now we're taking it back.
That was probably the Deshaun Golston years too.
Oh my god, I had high hopes for Deshaun Golston. Him and
the game changed for him.
I was about to say we got him 2 years too late. 2 years.
Yeah, absolutely. Imagine Deshaun Golston and John Lynch.
Oh shit! That's
he goes. Oh shit! I don't even think that's legal. I don't even think that's legal. I don't think that's legal. I think
the thing that goes against Gerald McCoy is the fact that it was that primetime game against the Steelers where he apologized, and I think that automatically
that pissed me off. I'm not gonna lie. Yeah.
I get you, but he was unimpeded to the quarterback. He felt he's not a dirty player, and he felt he did a dirty move. And I was like, well, that's fair enough. That's the way he is. It's not, that doesn't make him bad.
So
what I don't like it, but
yeah. So what I said, Coach, is this. When I went back and I started, like, I'm not kidding you, for the past 2 weeks, before I go to bed and shit, I'll look at my phone and I started watching clips of old Buccaneer games with McCoy. And I'm like, and I still got that ugly digital alarm clock McCoy jersey, man, the red one, man. I'm not gonna lie, but I won't get rid of it. I'm gonna frame it and hang it up because see what you see behind me. I got a white Mike Evans. I got a John Lynch. I got a bunch of them that I'm gonna be hanging up because I'm gonna be getting a studio for the podcast soon, and I'm gonna be doing something pretty cool for the background. But no, man, I was watching old games and I was just like, man, McCoy. So I go by a human being by how they are, like kind of like politics. I judge you by not what your policies are. I go by who you are as a human being, because who you are and what you do defines you. That dude gave back to the community. He does so much stuff. He was when did we ever hear anything negative with Gerald? Not only that, I went back and I started watching. You know what else I watched? I watched one episode of Hard Knocks of the Bears because my co-host is a big Bears fan. But I went back and I watched the Dirk Cutters and the Jameis Winston Hard Knocks. And I seen Gerald and I seen how he was with his kids. And I'm just like, man, this dude's fucking awesome.
But
like,
you know what the problem with Gerald was? And it wasn't Gerald. It was there was no one in front of him that taught him the ways. He came in year one with the Warren Sapp expectations. Yeah. They automatically threw a C on his chest. Yeah, obviously had a shitty defense. Yeah, Levante was there. Great, sure. And
a young Michael Bennett that you didn't believe in.
A good year with Raheem Morris, but it was just like there was just never any momentum. And then whenever they did make a splash in like free agency, all of those guys flamed out. So it was not like you brought in anyone that brought in a good culture. And if anything, you talk about Michael Bennett could have been a culture guy that could have worked with Gerald and been a leader on the defense. And
then you build from there.
But you let Michael Bennett go. He was a leader and an influence in the Seattle locker room, but there wasn't anyone like you see like Wirfs. Wirfs didn't come in, was a captain, wasn't even like a captain on the offensive line even as a rookie. That was Ryan Jensen, right?
Right.
So he had 3 years of Ryan Jensen, even when Jensen wasn't playing.
He also had 3 years of Brady too. So but that leader role,
is you had the culture of leaders around these guys. So now when they move on, Wirfs can be like, okay, I watched everyone around me. I know what the level of excellence is. McCoy never had that.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And
I said this with the Ring of Honor. You guys remember a couple of weeks back ago? I said, hey, does Tom Brady belong in the Ring of Honor? Because we were talking about Shaq Barrett. Should he be in the Ring of Honor? And I talked to you guys about this. I said, hey, the Ring of Honor, like a guy like Gerald and a guy like Tom Brady, does Tom Brady belong in the Ring of Honor? I've always said No, not right now. In the near future, because guys like Tristan, who played under Tom, and that Tom Brady effect of losing is no longer acceptable. Like, we have talent here, like we can do, like, that's he learned under the best. You know what I'm saying? And if you look at what he did, yeah, did he hold out this year? Yeah, no, but he did it the right way. He still showed up. Hey, I'm not going to do certain drills because I don't want to, that's something.
You saw what happened to Jensen. Like, that's a reality. And yet he still showed up.
Still showed up.
We're thankful for that. But I'm gonna give the final thoughts, guys. And
let's do this.
So I want to start with you, Louis, then Ken, and we'll work our way around. What are you looking for in this Jaguars game coming up for the reserves?
As far as what I'm looking for, I need to see more out of the defense. I know what the offense can do. I know the motto this year for Trey is pissed off Trey, and I want to see more of Trey, but I got to see more out of the defense. I want to see Todd Bowles really. I need to see Chris Braswell play more. I don't care if it's for 2 quarters. I got to see 2-3 quarters of that kid. That kid needs that regiment of a full game almost. If you want him to be the future. Also, I need to see, again, I need to see more of Jalen McMillan. As far as Trey goes, I know Trey can play. I don't think I got a chance to answer this, but like as far as who wide receiver number 3 is, you have to go with Trey Palmer and keep Jalen McMillan fresh because he's our deep threat, man, and he's gonna cause some havoc. Trey's a bruiser and he's got some wheels. But as far as what I'm looking for, I want to see some pass rush on the Jags, man. Come on, let's do this. We're the kings of Florida, man. Fuck Jacksonville. Fuck Miami. Let's go. Fire the cannons. Let's go.
I love it.
What about you, Ken? What you looking for?
In general, or just the Jags game?
Just the Jags game for now.
I just want to see the starters. Just two series, nothing too crazy. Just move the ball, even just past midfield. I think is just what do we see with Dave Canales is we never scored or got any points on a first drive for literally the entire year. So if they're just doing a condensed playbook, just get some points in the first 2 drives, I think would be really awesome to see. And then defensively, we've already touched it. Like let's see what Chris Braswell. Let's see what the 2 young guys, Jose Ramirez and
Sebastião.
Jose Ramirez, and then oh my goodness, Marquise Watts. Can those guys be a force if they're on the field this year? That type of thing. And I think the Jaguars, their biggest weakness is at tackle. So again, if the Jaguars have starters out there, I just want to see them do something. Like that would be really cool. If Yaya, he's not going to play, and JTS, he's probably not going to play either. So it's just like those guys are going to be in with the ones, and let's just see what the heck they got. But yeah, I'm not concerned about our defense, and it'll just be really cool to see maybe not necessarily what the Bengals did. They kind of did it sloppily, in my opinion. I know we talked about those announcers for the Bengals going a little goo gaga, considering I thought the second string defense played pretty darn well. Move the ball 1 of the 2 drives just would be really cool to see, and then just get your ass off the field and get the season healthy. That's all I really care about.
Keep momentum going.
What about you, Coach Slick?
I want to I want to see more of this run game. I want to see if these starters can do it. I want to see if they can move the football pretty well because this Jags defense ain't poor. So it'll be interesting to see what they can do against them. So I'd like to see the ball being moved. Just like Ken said, it doesn't necessarily have to be for a touchdown, but to get it within scoring position, a touchdown would be nice, but to get it within scoring position or even into the red zone, that would be awesome. Obviously, we don't want to give too much away. I'd like to see some of our depth players make more plays as well, just so we feel a little bit more comfortable with what we got defensively. Continue to stop the run because the run defense has kind of teetered in the last 2 years. It needs to come back to what it was like in 2021. in 2021 was when it was at its best. I'd like to see that dominance take over and be like, nah, you ain't running against. It don't matter who you got. Remember, you wheel out old. We play against the Titans, and they wheel out Derrick Henry. And be like, you ain't getting 100 yards today, mate. It's not happening. It's not happening. Just quit while you're ahead. You might have to get them through the pass. You have to get them somewhere else, but you are not getting them on this fucking ground. And we did it. We did it against most running backs. That's what I want to see come back. That's all I demand. That's all I want. And I just want to see who
Buccaneer football, baby.
Old school.
Hold
the run. Then you can start to look at the pass. And then, like, every single person in this room has echoed, we want to see that pass rush. Let's get Barcelona in for a little bit longer than he needs to be in, just because we want to see what he can do. Let's see what he can do against their thirds. Let's see what he can do against their seconds. Let's see what he can do, because that is a guy. I don't think he'll be the starter date week 1, but I do think you want to kind of progress him into that role. Because if you remember, nor was Yaya Diaby. He wasn't the starter week 1. It took time. And I think that's what I want to see. I want to see that progression. We might not even see it in this game, but it might be those subtle little moves where you put pressure on the quarterback's rush the throw and it becomes an incomplete pass, or it becomes a pick, or it just becomes a wayward throw that doesn't go anywhere.
Coach, which player did you say for the edge rush? Who did you say you wanted to see? Was it Braswell?
Braswell, yeah.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, you guys are just
everyone else. We know what they can do to a degree already.
Yep, you guys took everything I just said. All y'all just eloquent that way. So
what the fuck, man?
Run the ball and hit and pass rush. But we'll let everybody. First off, Ken, thank you for being a guest on the show tonight. We appreciate you. Tell everybody where they can find you and what else you got planned coming up.
Bucs_Barrett. I just co-host occasionally, and then also just guest star wherever. So you'll see me around from Buck What You Heard, Real Bucs Talk. Pretty much am around the block, and also we'll talk with other teams throughout the season. So you'll just find me on Twitter, Bucs_Barrett. That's all I really got going on.
Well, thank you for your time, Ken. You take care. And as always, go Bucs.
Go Bucs.
All right, guys. Louis, tell everybody where they can find you and what you got planned coming up.
As always, guys, you guys can find me at the Frozen Pirate Podcast. We're on Spotify, iHeartRadio, Apple Podcasts, wherever you guys listen to podcasts, we're on there. So we're kind of like the unfiltered podcast show. We just speak how we feel, and that is what it is. Also, we're on YouTube Live now. We do lives, so feel free to interact with us. And I know you guys kind of see me going like this. I know AJ, you guys kind of see me doing that. I don't have a can opener, so I had to do it the old-fashioned way and open these bottles up with a lighter, because I know people, like a buddy of mine texted me. He's like, "What the fuck are you doing?" I don't have a can opener. I had to open it with a lighter. But as always, hopefully you guys can join me on an episode of the Frozen Pirate Podcast.
Yes, sir.
We got to do it. So
yes.
I got to say it real quick, because I know you guys are pressed for time. This was actually a long show, and this was actually a great show. Actually, I'm getting a lot of positive feedback from friends of mine and stuff like that. You guys got to come on the Frozen Pirate Podcast. We got to figure out a time that works for everybody. And so Jamie and myself and a good friend of mine whose name is Jay, we do a lot of drinking on that show, and we start talking Bucs, and then things start to kind of go off the rails a little bit, and we just start speaking freely. So hopefully you guys can join us on the Frozen Pirate Podcast. Again, iHeartRadio, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, wherever you guys listen to podcasts. We're on YouTube. Follow us on the Instagram, Frozen Pirate Podcast, Instagram, Twitter, whatever you want to call it, whatever it's going by. I don't know. I don't care. But it is what it is. But as always, guys, thank you for having me.
Yeah. All right, Louis. Take care of yourself, my brother.
Cheers.
And again, as always, Buck fans, thank you for checking out Bucs Report, the Aftermath on 102.9, the Game Broad Street South Radio. You can always check me out on my personal YouTube channel. It's about Buck and Time. Go to AJ Turnup, check out the link, and go to the website and get some nice gear. This is what it's all about right here. Survival for the Bucs, and reality checks don't bounce. And as always, Slick, take care, and go Bucs, y'all.
Go Bucs, man. Hey guys, that is the end of the show. Obviously, you've heard a little bit about my personal football world. My team is now going into the quarterfinals, which is technically our divisional. So our conference championship, the NFC championship, which is the North Football Conference. Same thing. We have an SFC and an NFC. And our Brit Bowl will be the SFC team versus the NFC team. Who that is, we don't care. Right now, we've got the Staffordshire Surge, and that's the only thing that is on our minds. We need to make sure we beat them, and we go for a ring. So next Wednesday, I'll catch you guys all soon. We'll talk our talk, and hopefully in a couple of more weeks, we'll have a even better conversation about our Bucs, and hopefully what I'm doing could be coaching in Brit Bowl 2024 and go kick some ass. But without further ado, Bucs on me, Bucs on free. 1, 2, 3, go Bucs!